congressional leaders have reached a top-line agreement for government funding for the 2024 fiscal year. When we began our negotiations, our goal was to preserve a non-defense funding level of $772 billion, the same level agreed to in our debt ceiling deal last June. And that $772 billion was precisely the number we reached. Not a nickel was cut.
Man, it's one thing to lose a negotiation. It's another thing to have the people who just whipped you in the negotiation rub your face in it in front of the American people, the Republicans, the Republican leadership in the House. They started hammering away at those Democrats, and after a long negotiation, not a single dime got cut. Joining me now, somebody who is none too pleased about it, just like you are, the great Congressman Chip Roy of the state of Texas. Okay, Chip, well, wow, that was some pretty incredible negotiating. They negotiated everything the Democrats wanted without cutting a dime. Hooray, GOP.
Oh, no, Chuck Schumer said they didn't cut a nickel. They didn't cut a nickel,
yes.
Jesse.
Yes.
Look, I can't actually put it into words, just so everybody understands. I didn't love the debt deal last summer, right? It was pretty well documented. I thought we should have gotten more out of it. For a $4 trillion increase in the debt, I thought we should have done more to stop the Inflation Reduction Act, stop a bunch of bad policies and the woke agenda. But at the end of the day, we at least got some caps put in place, okay? And literally all Speaker Johnson and all Republican leadership had to do is nothing but a continuing resolution funding government the rest of the year. And we would have ended up at about $1.564 trillion, which is $100 billion less than the deal that was just cut and was just being trumpeted on the floor by Chuck Schumer. If this is winning, then count me out. That's not winning. I mean, look, Jesse, this actually matters because last year when we had the speakers fight, we fought hard to get changes, substantive changes, try to change the process. And it was actually kind of working. Not perfect. Not to the level you or I would prefer, but we got a good border bill passed. We got Limit, Save, Grow, which actually had a limit increase in the debt with actual substantive transformative changes in spending. We got caps put in place, not as far as I wanted to go. We got a good a national defense bill that had good changes to all of the garbage. It was mission focused. And now we get in December, what do? We pass a watered down defense bill with FISA extension. And now we're going to do a funding bill that is funded at the level the Democrats are championing. And they're championing it because it's spending at the level of the Nancy Pelosi omnibus spending level that Republicans campaigned against. So now they can get all mad at me as much as they want about my speeches saying, name one thing that we've done, but we still haven't done one thing.
Yeah, no, look, there's been nothing. And this is a year, obviously, where we want a motivated GOP to get out and vote. There's a lot more at stake than just the presidency. We have the House, we have the Senate, we have all these things. And these people in leadership, it's more than just Mike Johnson, these people in leadership, do they grasp at all, Chip, that every time they do one of these, all they do is kick sand in the face of their base and demotivate them? No, I'm not going to do it, Chip, but I'll tell you, as soon as I heard about this, I had yet another moment where I said, I'm not even voting in 2024. Screw these people.
You know, and the thing is, you and I all know the importance of what we need to do for our kids and grandkids. We got to show up and vote. But you are right. It does demoralize people. And look, you know what the problem is? I was just asked about this on a friend of mine's show here in Iowa. And so what's the problem? Why does this happen? And the best answer I could give is literally most of the Republicans I know, most of my colleagues, they run for the right reasons. They run for the reasons you and I believe in for the most part. Good people, generally God-fearing people. But what happens is they get to Washington and they never met an excuse they wouldn't embrace. And they never met a criticism they wouldn't cower from, right? Like you served in the military. All of those 400,000 tombstones sitting over Arlington National Cemetery, every veteran listening to your show, you guys faced bullets. You guys faced the prospect of death. You signed up to possibly give the last full measure of devotion for a country. And all politicians get are freaking tweets. People say mean things. You might lose an election. Who gives a crap? Like literally, if I lose an election and I have to go back to Texas and not go to Washington, D.C., that's kind of a win. The question here is what are we going to do with the time God gave us on this planet and in office? And Republicans, unfortunately, run away from the fight, rather than running into the fight for the American people. That's a problem.
Can you explain? I understand he's a friend, and I understand you're not afraid to criticize the GOP. I'm not saying that, but I'm not going to ask you to criticize a friend on camera. But Mike Johnson. Now, I've had Mike Johnson on the show before prior to being speaker. I don't have any politicians hardly on the show. You're one of like 5 I'll even have on here. Mike Johnson has an outstanding voting record. Mike Johnson, I have always known him to be a principled human being. And what happens when you walk into the speaker's office, Chip? Do they just remove your head and replace it with something else? I don't know who this guy is, but this isn't the Mike Johnson I've known.
Well, look, again, you said it. Mike is a friend. He's an honest guy. But this is a time for us to speak truth to the American people. We don't have any more time to hope. We don't have any more time to wait around to win the House and win the Senate, only to have these same Republicans next year tell me, but Chip, we don't have 60 votes in the Senate. Because you and I both know that's what's coming at us, right? They always have an excuse. And look, there were glimmers of signs that I did not like. Speaker Johnson, when he was a rank and file member, he supported bills out of the NDAA that would draft our daughters. You and I talked about this. That's garbage. There were signs of things that I didn't like. But at the end of the day, I was still hopeful that we would have a fight here. Look, I'm going to keep pushing on them. I hope that we'll wake up before they cut this deal in full. We still haven't got it done yet. I'm going to work with my Freedom Caucus colleagues to push back. But look, this is just more of the same. And look, I got to be honest with you. If the speaker's name was McCarthy instead of Johnson, there would 100% be a motion to vacate being thrown down on the table right now in this deal. But unfortunately, a few of my colleagues kind of shut that in September. So now here we are. Look, the bottom line is the American people. I'm out in Iowa. I'm campaigning for my friend Ron DeSantis. And we're out here, and people out here, they want to change. They thank me. They thank my friend Thomas Massey, who was out on the campaign trail with me, saying, thank you guys for standing up and fighting for us and for our way of life. They're tired of more of the same out of Washington. They want leadership. They don't want excuses. And they want us to actually get the job done. So I'm going to keep pushing.
Chip, corruption and incompetence are not exactly breaking news after 3 years of this administration, but the Defense Secretary being hospitalized, his backup being on vacation and not being told that she now assumes his duties has to be one of the more bizarre stories I remember in the last 3 years. And it's so bizarre, it smells like corruption to me. And I'm not saying it is, but there's no way we really put the Defense Secretary in a hospital and nobody knew.
Yeah, I mean, again, you wore the uniform. I did not serve in the military. I got to believe that it really galls you, right? I mean, we're supposed to, in this country, have civilian leadership for a reason. When you've got the civilian Secretary of Defense who goes MIA, the president doesn't know it, and his number 2 doesn't know it. Look, I promise you, if this were Republicans, the media would be roasting us on fire. And look, I'll at least give them some credit. I mean, they're at least highlighting, this occurred. They're not hiding it, but it's hard to hide. It's so absolutely abhorrent. But here's what bothers me more, Jesse. We Republicans, we're going to give the Defense Department another $28 billion increase in spending. We just gave them a national defense authorization that authorizes a lot of the garbage woke stuff that's going on over in the Pentagon. We Republicans feed the beast. You can't complain about it. If you fund it, you own it. And I don't think my Republican colleagues understand that. We own the mess. We own the incompetence. We own the purposeful destruction of the military to turn it into a woke social engineering experiment because we fund it.
You're in Iowa. You're campaigning for Ron. You're campaigning out there for Ron DeSantis. What are his chances? What do you like?
Look, I think he is moving in the right direction. Look, President Trump has a block of the electorate that are 100% loyal to him. He got a media that isn't helpful. The media doesn't like Ron DeSantis because, frankly, the guy has delivered. He's delivered at every level in Florida, whether you're talking about taking on Anthony Fauci, when President Trump instead gave him a commendation on the way out of office after shutting down the greatest economy in the history of the world, forcing vaccines and mandates on people, and mask mandates and shutting down schools. Governor DeSantis was a beacon of hope. He opened his economy up. People moved to Florida. That's the kind of leadership we want. I want a guy that sent a plane load of illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard, helping us actually save the election when Republicans were on their heels. That's leadership. And everybody said, you can't do that, you'll lose. You know what? He won by 1.5 million votes, and he won 62% of Hispanic voters. That's what leadership will yield. The American people want that. They're tired of the excuses. And with all due respect to former President Trump, who both you and I supported in 16 and in 20. I will say that after I supported Ted Cruz in 2016. President Trump did a lot of good things, but let's be clear. He came in and he cut a deal with Paul Ryan on a weak Obamacare repeal, so we didn't get it repealed. We failed. We promised to repeal it. We didn't do it. We got a deal that he tried to cut with Paul Ryan on amnesty. We didn't get border security legislation passed because he embraced a 2 million plus amnesty provision. He said he would sign a executive order with respect to birthright citizenship. He didn't do it. That never got done. These are the kinds of things that the American people are frustrated about, and yet some are blinded and they say, oh, I got to support President Trump. Here on the ground in Iowa, people are seeing it. They're seeing the truth. Thomas Massie, the governor, and I, we're out on the stump. People are reacting. They want someone they can look up to in the White House because of who he is and what he's done. And that's working. And we're going up. Nikki Haley is cratering because she's an empty suit who goes out to New Hampshire and says, oh, yeah, you don't need to, you need to correct the record of whatever Iowa does. That's not selling very well here. And so we're trending in the right direction. Nikki Haley's plummeting, and I think President Trump is stagnating. And so hopefully we'll have a really good day next Monday.